Welcome to Talk of the Bay. I'm Christine Barrington. Millions of people across the globe felt horror and grief upon witnessing the killing of George Floyd this past May. Those 9 minutes on video made real what should be glaringly obvious, but which often remains on the periphery of American consciousness. Being Black in America is often a daily existential threat. Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor, David McAtee, the list of names of those whose lives have been egregiously taken seems to stretch on and on and on. It is heartbreaking, and the inability to address these ongoing crimes against humanity, the inability to effectively say no and stop it once and for all, creates a soul sickness for this nation. For those who want change, the inertia around transforming racial injustice begs the question, what can we do? And who are we? The WE in this question is not universal. If you are white, the role you need to play in this question might feel murky and confusing. Clarity can come through gaining knowledge and in particular gaining skills, but which skills really make the difference? What is absolutely required on the part of those who carry the legacy of perpetration and privilege in order to enable healing to begin? Well, the great questions in life rarely yield to easy answers, but the art and care through which we approach the answer can often set us on the path through which we can live into the answers, as the poet Rainer Maria Rilke encouraged us to do. Our guests tonight have particular gifts and skills around leaning into relational challenges and the mysterious healing process that can unfold when we approach a relational moment with awareness and skill. And sometimes non-humans can be our best teachers for unraveling complex human problems. Lori Halliday is the founder of Horse and Heart Ranch. For 20 years, Lori and her team of equine collaborators have assisted individuals and at-risk youth to heal through what she calls equine experiential learning. In the wake of the George Floyd killing and the massive uprisings that resulted, Lori decided to take her years of relational intelligence building through working with horses and apply it to the searing question. Joining us tonight also is one of her key facilitators, Sarah Cruse. Lori, Sarah, welcome to the show, and let's hear how this sounds. Are you there?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Hi, I'm here as well.
Perfect. Well, welcome to the show. We are often dealing with technological challenges in the age of COVID, and I'm hearing one of them. There's a bit of an echo, but onward we'll go. Lori, I would like to start with you. Can you share with us a bit about your background and what brought you to this moment?
Yes. Thank you so much for having us, Christine, and Sarah, for bringing us together. I just wanted to double check, is the sound okay?
It's great.
Excellent. And I want to also go ahead and apologize ahead of time that I'm here at the ranch, at Horse and Heart Ranch, and we have a pack of hounds here. So I've done what I can to manage the hounds, but I can tell one of them's talking already. So yeah, thank you so much for having us here so that we can look at and lean into what some of the other ways are that people are interacting and engaging with the changes in our times around race. So yeah, we just feel super privileged to have the space, and I mean the physical, mental, and emotional space, to hold a place for people right now to lean into some of these issues, to wonder about how they might be made different, and to do it with another kind of partner who really does beg the question about seeing and hearing things differently, which of course is our equine partner, the horse partners, the herd who we are working with here.
How many horses?
Yeah, I live here in Santa Cruz, California. I'm Lori Halliday, wise horsewoman, and we live with a herd of 11 horses and several partners on the land, human partners who work together with the herd, and a pack of hounds who we love, and a cat and some chickens. And we work with youth and with adults here. Now we've been serving in this county for 20 years. So that's a little bit about what we're up to here at Horse and Heart. Christine, you might have to guide me in a little farther.
That is my job. So you have been working with people for 20 years in a variety of situations, individuals, groups, and then you have this beautiful program called Equine Experiential, and you're working with children who are in the foster system, children that are often considered almost hopeless or very, very difficult to help. And you've been able to achieve some phenomenal results. And I think this really will kind of lead us into the appropriateness of this work in dealing with race. Can you just tell us a little bit about that work with the children?
Yes, definitely. And the Latin term equus anima cara stands for horse, soul, friend, and that is the name of our company. Over time, we changed it to Horse and Heart. So we do business as Horse and Heart because that was easier for people to remember. And it does get to the heart of the issue, which is about relationships. We have had the privilege to work with many foster youth in the area and other kinds of families who are in transitions and changes, medical, marital, all kinds of changes families go through. But I want to point particularly here to the foster youth in our county, because during the time since I graduated from college that I've been working with youth in transition, what I uncovered and discovered through experience and statistics is that many of the youth in foster care will become the nation's most painful population, are homeless. And to the statistic of 40 to 60% of the foster youth become homeless. And so for me, it's just a big gap area. And there's even a classification of children in the system who are kind of at their rope's end. Intensive treatment foster care is what it's called. And praise be to God for this classification, because those particular youth who aren't served any longer after their certain kinds of traumas, they're not served going into rooms for talk therapy. It doesn't work. It's not effective. Some of those children get to come into the outdoors, get to come to Horse and Heart Ranch and experience a therapeutic process with a horse partner outside and with a guide, which in this case is me or my partner, Ella Halliday, here at Horse and Heart. And we are holding space for the relationship as it naturally evolves. And as you can imagine, depending on the youth and depending on the horse, these relationships are very different and they go to very different places. But I'll tell you what, the people who serve these youth are stunned at the results, and it takes very little from us. It's a lot about the willingness to slow down, to see and hear things differently, and to become very curious about what we're feeling, which is kind of a root for a lot of the work we do in all of our programs.
Slowing down and becoming very curious about what we are feeling. It sounds so simple, and yet it's clearly transformationally potent. And so now let's begin to take those principles and walk toward this program that you created called Dark Horse Before the Dawn. And I would like you to describe just what that program is, what you were designing and how it was structured.
Well, for all of us, it's been such an interesting, challenging, inspiring, and growth-rich year for many reasons for different people. And there was so much work, marching, standing up, activism happening all around me, around all these topics of social injustice, of racial injustice, of the intensity of some people experiencing the whiteness, and the intensity of some people from mixed families feeling the mixed racial families feeling the edge of walking the edge between these two worlds, and the feeling of people of color in a new exposed era of now being asked different questions and having different responsibilities. And it wasn't clear for me exactly where I fell in the picture, how to be present, how to be effective, how to use my privilege, and how to be responsible. I wasn't sure what the yes was for me in how to engage in what was going on. And I was in a conversation with a dear friend of mine, Jamila Jackson, who I've been dancing with for a very long time. She has a nonprofit called Embodied Leadership back east. And we were in many discussions and coaching calls, and she asked me if I thought it would be a good idea to go towards what is happening in the world and go towards these issues through the way of the horse. And I said yes. That's kind of how it started, how it came together. And we were so ripe for the picking, and we both are we're biracial children, so we're both from mixed families. And Sarah, who we'll hear from here in a moment, also biracial. And I think there was a resonant thread there between us around feeling like a liaison in between these worlds, both as biracial children, and then for me, certainly as an interspecies communicator.
Wow. So you decided to do this first with Jamila. And can you tell us, what was the structure? Who participated? How many people were there? Help our listeners understand, what was this container and what did you populate it with?
Mm-hmm. So right away, we threw out an arc that contained 2 trainings that brought in and called in our best powerhouse, white, heart-centered, influential allies. And that's who we were envisioning and imagining. And we felt that we would need to do it twice in order to have reach and scope from within our circles. And so then we dreamed into the future that after that, we would then, after moving through those processes and doing what we could to offer tools, to put a stake in the ground for a different way, to bring in more curiosity and perhaps something effective into the game. You know, we were also walking through these, frankly, challenging trainings, holding the torch and the vision for what we knew was coming, which is Dark Horse Rising, which we're raising funds for now to host women of color live here at Horse and Heart in 2021. And so those original trainings were 10 women plus 7 partners that was Sarah and I, or Jamila and I, were leading. And then we would also have 5 really high-level, incredible therapeutic angels who supported the teams and the classes all along the way. So that was both of those trainings had 10 women plus 7. And we would meet every weekend on Saturday for an hour and a half on a Zoom call. And we had multiple cameras, so we were set up in the field. And people from Zoom could witness and experience these different interactions and interplays of relationship and of the approach towards relationship with a human and a horse, or a horse and a horse. And we could then utilize these themes for other kinds of inquiry. They had a buddy in the team who was a partner who they could discuss things with. And again, they also had the opportunity to meet with an angel during those trainings every week.
So you had this was a richly resourced healing container, a training ground for these, as you said, these kind of heart-centered white women allies that you were bringing into this experience. And so now is the moment where I really want to bring Sarah in, because she co-facilitated, she was a lead facilitator with you through the second round that was just completed, correct?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right. Sarah, are you there?
Hi, yes, I am.
Hello, Sarah. Welcome to Talk of the Bay. You, I really understand why Lori would have been drawn to bring you into this particular circle, because you are a healing being. You're a musician, you're a sound healer, you interface with our human family in many ways, and your presence is always healing fundamentally. And so welcome to Talk of the Bay. I'm really excited to bring your voice into this conversation about this experience that the two of you led. And so to bring your voice in, I would like to ask kind of what drew you into this process, and what would you like to share as far as an introduction to you in this work, Dark Horse Before the Dawn?
Yes, thank you, Christine. And I just want to say I really appreciate everything that has been said, and all of the words that have that you've carefully, I feel like, and lovingly curated to set the stage for this. So Kevin, what is Kevin's last name? Kevin
O'Connor.
Oh yes, Kevin O'Connor. Oh my goodness. One of my favorite beings, who I was connected with in another kind of spiritual growth organization. He has been working with Lori for years and years and years. And he brought me in. And I feel like, when you are, you're making choices, you're learning to make good choices for yourself. And it was one of these things where I had started making different kinds of choices for myself, and found myself on a phone call with Lori and Kevin. And I was like, oh yeah, this is my reward for making good choices in my life. And I am a biracial woman. I have a white mother. She's Scotch-Irish, and an African-American father from Houston, Texas, who grew up with really stark racism and navigated that with his own healing heart. And so I feel like just in my childhood, in my young adulthood, and where I am now, it's always been a very important piece for me, is how to bridge the gap, right? The space in between these two seemingly polar opposite states of mind, or skin colors, right? Or social stratospheres, and the space between, right? Trying, like, unpacking and metabolizing, digesting what seemed to be a lot of hurt and confusion in that space. So I feel like landing in the ground with Lori and this work that she's cultivated has been a blessing, and I've learned a lot. It's been really beautiful.
Well, I want to take a moment to reintroduce listeners to the show. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz at 90.7 FM, or maybe live streaming at ksqd.org. We have here as our guest Lori Halliday, the founder of Horse and Heart Ranch, and Sarah Cruse, her facilitator, and we're talking about a powerful program that they just led called Dark Horse Before the Dawn, and it's using relational work with horses to help people who build skill, relational skill, listening skill, to approach the question of how we heal racial injustice in America. And so Lori and Sarah, I want to get into the actual program. You talked about all the things that you learned, and it is, to me, it's a very, very rich field that you created, and part of that is this incredible intersectionality of talents and gifts of your entire team. You talked about these 5 angels that you've brought in. All of these people come from backgrounds rich in training, and not just like a therapist that say has a PhD, but people with bodywork expertise, movement expertise, music. How does that inform this work? Why is it important to have this kind of intersectionality in order to try to achieve transformational change?
Sarah, will you speak to that, love? I'm thinking about you and the humming and the hummus.
Yes, thank you. So let's see. Our nervous systems, right, are so precious. They're like so sensitive and responsive. And one of the, I think, key elements about our time together was this turn towards resonance, and resonance in the space between us, resonance in our own bodies, and learning to really settle into a relationship with what is resonating, and learning to be with what is resonating outside of any mental construct or idea. It was quite profound. And one of the things that we did was we brought in the practice of humming, and we kind of wove it into the hour and a half, each person being able to sit in their own stillness, their own quiet, being present to what is arising, and humming. And what happens, the vagus nerve is the largest nerve in the body, and it's related to the parasympathetic nervous system, right? And so when the vagus nerve is stimulated in a healing way, it can support all of the organs and the whole body in coming to a healthy state of like sound ground, right? And so humming, just like humming simply through your nose, and all of you listeners, you're welcome to try it right now, through the forehead and the nose, and just humming like it can have a very profound effect on how the body can metabolize trauma and integrate like experience into wisdom from my perspective. And so that's one of the tools that we used.
It seems so innocent, this idea of humming, and it is a golden thread between Sarah and Kevin and Stephanie and the other angels, Kate and Shakti, the other teacher, Jamila. All of the people within the practice do understand the importance of the embodied work. And we have all begged the question, how will we let things in? How will we be made differently if we're too activated? And so we all have been taking many pathways in to see if we can then do other work when we're in a more, as Sarah said, relaxed parasympathetic state. And so Stephanie Stephanie Mukes is a great somatic teacher, and Sarah is a mover and singer and carries the vibration with her. Kevin is a doctor, Dr. Kevin O'Connor, of philosophy, and I'm not sure exactly what his pedigree is, but I think he's on the next interview. But he is also a master climber. He's an aerialist, and one of the things many of us do together is dance. We study the Axis syllabus, and so we were leaning in on people who are moving through what's happening in a different way with their bodies, in an embodied way, not just talking about it.
Yes, and that embodiment seems to be the key. Einstein is one of my favorite quotes. He said, "We cannot solve problems with the same kind of thinking that created those problems in the first place." And in many ways, we keep trying to solve this problem with a lot of talking, especially, in the political arena, talking aggressively. And that isn't going to solve the problem. I believe this embodiment and paying attention to what Sarah called our precious nervous system is the key gateway that can take us into a future where some of these things can truly transform.
Mm-hmm. 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 I agree, and there are a lot of amazing somatic, like specialist beings right now that are engaging this race conversation, and so I feel like we're going to be okay. And like I wanted to speak to the. So you mentioned a resource, Christine, earlier, and in my life, I feel like one of my own personal wounds is like just growing up in a family that didn't have enough money or maybe didn't have enough time to spend together. I felt like just not having enough resource was the thing that hurt us all. And when we have enough resource, right, and when we come together, we have greater and greater resource. When we have enough resource, everything can be tended to. And then I wanted to add too, as I was listening, I was like, I think there's two more pieces that are always here, but may not get spoken to inside of this beautiful, tremendous resource that we've cultivated together. The turning towards with curiosity is one of the main, I think, one of the ways we navigated, and also being honest about how we're feeling in the moment. And when there's resource, when we can turn towards with honesty and be curious of what's here, I feel like the world is our oyster. Like we could just turn towards any conflict and really come out shiny and new. And
yeah, from day one until the last day, I had the feeling that we were in the deep mudra of practice what you preach.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I felt that we kept getting called up to the plate again, to start again, to begin again, to be curious again at the approach, and to assess as best we can again from a distance, and begin again with the simple, what do I see, and the simple, what do I hear, without the stories. And Sarah and I and Kevin and Christine, I think we shared this with you, that when I say practice what you preach, I mean for all of us, it was an opportunity to see how these tools are alive, or these conflicts are alive in our lives and in our relationships, and then to try something different. And even there was this beautiful sort of veil between the training and the team, where after the training, another training would begin, and we would get to slow down and start again with the team.
And I want to make a reflection, and you correct me if I'm wrong here. What I'm hearing when you say that is discussing about, resource and practicing what you preach, is that in a process of a training like this, there's going to be triggers. There might be things said that are misunderstood, or some things just might be said that are hard to hear, because this is all about learning and becoming teachable, and we all have a lot to learn, so we're going to stumble. And then when there's trigger, that needs to get metabolized. And so what I'm making up as I hear you speak is that these sort of powerful moments might have happened where then everybody needs to slow down, become more curious, become really honest about what they are feeling, and then you've got all these different beings in this container that are helping to resource that moment. And I would love it if you could speak a little bit more to what that means. Like, I know what that means because my training's in psychology, but it's possible that people who are listening are thinking like, well, what does that mean exactly, resourcing? Could you speak to that a little bit and why it's so important for metabolizing these energies? Because Kevin O'Connor said something that I found really significant. He said that this workshop was the first time that all the energies that arose in the course of the journey, all of these energies got metabolized. And speaking as one who has been in workshops and led workshops, that is incredibly significant. Can you speak to that a little bit more?
Laura, I guess I can speak to this, and then Laura, you can chime in. So Kevin, at the end of our our final day time together, reflected that, and he's experienced all kinds of processes with people and animals, and that we were able to any energy that became fractured or discharged or painful, it did not serve to sever the container. It served to strengthen the container, right? So it was, I feel like our ecosystem was healthy. We had a healthy ecosystem, and all of the elements were being used and metabolized. And what that looks like is, and when we speak about resource, I think, when I think about resource, I think about first my own kind of connection with myself, connection to something that's greater, some energy like love, right? And then connecting through that field with other people. So there's this really profound, supple, energetic space that's filled with love and resilience, and it bends and it shapes and it molds, and it's listening. It's actively listening. And for all of us too, like I said, it's a triggering subject, right? I don't think anybody's outside of this trigger. We're all walking around with pain in our bodies from the world at large, right? We're just all walking around with some kind of pain in our bodies. And so being able to be present to the pain that gets triggered, it could even be something silly, like someone breathes at a weird time, the triggers in this conversation can be anything. And as a team, and I want to speak to just Lori, having her as a lead facilitator, being able to learn and work from her, I felt so safe and so grounded. And I feel like in her body is just this sturdy, resilient, supple. She allows in and she allows out, and in that space, it just created this ground for all of us to really be honest, even if we were afraid it was going to hurt somebody's feelings. And there was enough love and understanding in the space that things weren't taken personally, and we were able to actually first feel deeply into what was said, and then actively problem solve, right, with our higher thinking minds, and it really served. We were not outside of the transformation, right? We're facilitators, but we are not outside of the transformation. When we step into this container, we are also being changed. And we're also saying yes to being changed, and that's what happened.
Well, we're going to continue this conversation, but we need to take a short break and reintroduce listeners to the show. You are listening to KSQD Santa Cruz on 90.7 FM and KSQD.org live streaming. I'm Christine Barrington, and this is Talk of the Bay. We are here with Lori Halliday, the founder of Horse and Heart Ranch, and her key facilitator, Sarah Cruse, talking about a marvelous program that they developed called Dark Horse Before the Dawn, which is using relational intelligence work with horses to address race in the hopes that it can contribute to living into the answer of how we solve this social injustice issue. And we will be back with our marvelous guests right after this quick break.
KSQD thanks Growing Up in Santa Cruz for supporting this program. Growing Up in Santa Cruz offers monthly news and views for Santa Cruz families and a calendar of local family events. Growing Up in Santa Cruz can be found for free in locations throughout Santa Cruz County. Thank you for supporting Community Radio, KSQD 90.7 FM.
Hi, I'm Bobby Bishop, host of Be in the Night, bringing you the best I can with jazz, love songs, and soul. Join me on Tuesday evenings from 7 to 10 p.m., playing the classics straight ahead and introducing you to the latest artists and composers. That's Tuesday nights from 7 to 10 p.m. right here on listener-supported KSQD 90.7 FM, Santa Cruz.
Welcome back to Talk of the Bay. We are here with Lori Halliday, the founder of Horse and Heart Farm, and her key facilitator, Sarah Cruse, talking about a program that they just completed exploring how to heal, create the conditions for healing racial injustice here in our nation. And Lori, I want to read something from your website. It says, under the guidance of our highly trained horse and heart team, horse lovers of all levels and disciplines work with the horse to achieve success without force, partnership without dominance, teamwork without fear, willingness without intimidation, and harmony without coercion. When I read those words, I just immediately pictured our political system and how we needed every one of those phrases. And so it seems highly appropriate that this work is now sort of leaning into something that is a political problem amongst many, many other problems. And so one of the things that you said before we took our break was this willingness to be changed by this process. And I'm wondering if each of you could speak to that. How did you find yourself being changed by going through this workshop with these, it was 10 white women and you had your angels to resource you, but how did you get changed in the process? Can you give an example?
Yeah, I want to speak first to, this ties into something we were talking about earlier, which is why would we need to be so heavily resourced to do this friendly training? And that is because I would categorize this work as shadow work, looking at some of our unconscious patterns and materials, maybe looking at parts of ourselves that we haven't fully embraced. And so plenty of the personal work before people even came into the training, before I even fully planned everything, we all had a lot bubbling up. And I think when we take a stand to look into our own soul and all of the pieces, our own shadow work, that it's activating and it's a rich field. And so I think having the resources that Sarah was talking about and that we all had, we all needed in the training. And I just want to do a shout out again to the founder of this original work with us is Jamila Jackson. And so I in particular felt that Jamila and Sarah and I really stepped into acts of bravery in order to be present for this. And what I now know, 2/3 through the arc of this particular project, is that we had the most brave and stellar and supple leaders involved with the team of facilitators, co-facilitators, and angels. And we could really lean into that team and this container where consensual leadership was being invited in, so that people were able to lead from different seats. Maybe even just in this conversation tonight, you might notice that we take a way of pausing and speaking and waiting that incipient moment, which is difficult in our culture, to pause, to breathe, to wonder about what was said or what was seen, just to even have that moment. And so having a team that we could lean on, knowing that there was so much willingness and bravery within each person created some freedom to relax and for all of us to do our work. That was my experience. And I'm not saying it was easy or that shadow work is fun. I'm saying that I felt willing and safe, and the value to move through, to burn through old beliefs into something functional and effective that leads to joy is so worth it for me.
Well, sensing into, as you are speaking, imagining getting to approach this very, very difficult material, accepting that it would be difficult, but knowing that there would be people inviting me forward with a welcome, with a yes, even though they might challenge me around something that I need to learn, I would be held with love and care and curiosity and slowing down enough. Again, I see this as one of the biggest impediments to cultural healing is our world is moving too quickly and we don't have this space. Spaciousness is one of these resources that you're talking about. So I appreciate you naming that shadow element. Carl Jung is a great thinker who I admire, and I've worked with his ideas most of my life. And he said something that is very powerful. He said that if we want to avoid World War III, each of us has to go to the collective pool of shadow and take back our own portion. And I see this work that you're creating is paving a path to create a way to do that even though it may be difficult, it's not terrifying. Does that sound right?
I hope it wasn't terrifying. I think people had a pretty good time.
I was going to say, I think maybe there was a little terror, but I think that's just par for the course, and it's okay. It's like, let's normalize terror.
Well, a little can be handled.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
There's so much respect and love in the container, and we were really standing up for being as clear and present as we could, and that's. I'm just going to be more pointed. I feel that Sarah came into the second training with so much bravery and willingness to share how things actually landed with her. Mm-hmm. And then we could process it in a way that was very generative. And so, I think it scared the shit. Can I say that? Sorry. I think it was scary. A lot of the work we did, the things we talked about, stories I told from my childhood in Georgia with Ku Klux Klan people. Yeah, I think it was actually terrifying, Christine. Mm-hmm.
Well, I appreciate you coming back and offering that clarification. And so what I'm making up is there's degrees of terror, because we often have to feel terror, thinking alchemically that it's in, sort of chemical volatility that transformation can happen. And the question is can we move through terror and come out the other side, again, using that term, resourced enough that we can integrate and come back to ourselves. PTSD is often caused by experiencing terror, getting overwhelmed, and then not getting enough resource to integrate. So I really appreciate that the both of you are naming, terror was there, but we moved through it skillfully.
Yes, and I do appreciate just the continual pointing back to resource, because I think I work with trauma actively with people in my life, and the ratio of 95% resource and 5%, shadow or 5% terror, I think is a healthy, it's in the realm of healthy ratio. And it takes a lot of love, a lot of attunement, and a lot of care, like loving curiosity, right? To walk through these caverns of terror within us. But we don't have to be afraid of them, because they all have their own quality of wisdom that they're waiting to share with us, right? And so in that frame, I think one of the containers that we said at the beginning was that just trust that everything that you feel is is good, right? Even if it feels horrible, it's good. Even if it's confusing, it's good, because inside of this container, we're breathing all the way in and we're breathing all the way out, and we're getting the information that we didn't have before. And so to trust what our bodies are telling us, to trust and to listen and to allow this river of feelings, emotions, sensations to flow, right? Without actually needing to know exactly what they are. Sometimes I think we get stuck because we try to unpack things when all they would want to do is just flow through us. And so, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, and that we played with those tools around how to simply see something or hear something without a story.
Yes.
And that's tricky because we come with trauma and we come with stories.
I really would like you to speak more to that, because it's really one of the very razor's edges that we traverse in the healing process, is how do we simply be with and experience things without jumping to too many words, to too many stories, defining what's happening, versus accepting and allowing and being with and learning the wisdom of being with things, which I'm going to repeat, requires that we slow the process down and we turn up the curiosity.
I think getting to be with equines, getting to be with horse partners is a setup for a divine curiosity, and is a setup for not knowing the same language. I'm so deeply curious about what my horse is feeling, what they're trying to transmit to me, saying, and I'm looking to their body language, to their breath, and I'm feeling in my own resonant body, in my own resonant field. How do I feel as I am here with this horse partner? Is my belly and are my guts relaxed, or am I carrying tension? And so it's just a whole different way of wondering how things are going on this date. You don't get all the regular cues, and that kind of a practice, which cracks open the curiosity again around what we call the other, the otherness, something outside of ourselves, I think is the kind of slowing down and the kind of training that brings our attention back to simply what we've seen and what we can hear. And we stayed with that practice of what we could see and what we could hear for a long time before we even layered on how it made us feel, because that is so entangled with the story. So it's an invitation to dwell in the simplicity of what you can see and what you can hear as long as you can.
Speaking of your horse date and the horses, I would love to take a moment to invite your horses in. Perhaps tell us their names and share a little bit about something about them, because without these marvelous beings putting themselves in the arena and interacting with many different beings, none of this would be possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yes. And there's such a deep love for me and for many people. And certainly I think the people who had the experience during COVID of getting to be with the horses on the weekends on a Zoom call became a real source of light and love. A couple of the horses who we played with during both of the sessions, session 1 and 2, are a beautiful large gelding Swedish warm blood. His name is Gizmo. And Gizmo's my beautiful daughter, Ella Halliday, who's my partner and trainer here at the ranch. That's her horse who she's had since she was in high school. And he retired from his illustrious hunter-jumper life that honestly, he hated it. And now he lives here and has a much more pastoral life and does things like be with and sensing in and following a feel with each other and with humans. So Gizmo was one of our partners, and his best friend, Jill, was with him. They lived together. They're a little mini herd. And we had the illustrious Puppet, a tiny miniature pony named Puppet, who's super fuzzy right now, who actually is in need of a stay-adoption donor. We rescued him a few years ago, and Puppet would be involved sometimes, and it's just a different kind of point of entry to be with him. He's a diminutive being, but with a big heart. He's kind of the mayor, the greeter. And then finally, someone who we didn't expect to come in is Artemis. And during the fires that happened not long ago, my daughter Ella and our partner Stephanie Mukes went out and brought in, well, they rescued many horses, but they brought 14 additional horses to our ranch, which was a very full house. And one of them is Artemis, this beautiful mare, this beautiful donkey. You don't call him a mare, I think you call him a Jenny or something. But anyway, that just tells you about my donkey knowledge. So she's beautiful, and she came into the training, and she's a mystery to us because she has experienced so much with humans. She came from a kill lot in Texas, and some wonderful women, I think a woman, Bianca, was involved who rescued her. And anyway, long story short, we have adopted Artemis, and she was at the training as well. And she is such a mystery, and it's easy to be with otherness, to wonder how to approach, to know that I don't know, and stay curious with Artemis. And so she has been a great teacher. And there are 11 total here, so I could go on and on, but I'm watching the minutes tick away.
Oh, well, thank you so much for bringing those precious beings here into the field, because they give so much. And, talking about resource for many, many people, especially traumatized people, which actually is a vast majority of people on this earth. But being with animals is one of the great resources for our nervous system, for our hearts, and for our spirit. So it was enlivening to meet these beings and hear their names. And in the couple of minutes that we have left, I want to invite you, Lori, to tell us, what are your next steps? You've got this new program coming called Dark Horse Rising. You've been doing fundraising. Today is known as Giving Tuesday, so it might be a good opportunity to invite that kind of giving. So we have about 2 minutes left, and I would just open it to you to say what's coming next and how can people find you?
Yes. So we are a local installation, but we're so hidden in the hills that you'll have to come hunting for us. We're not that far. We're about 7 minutes from the highway in SoCal. You can go to the web at horseandheart.org. Check out our programs. There's a beautiful little film there that was made by Adam Worth a few years ago. Check that out. You can also find out what I'm up to at wisehorsewoman.com. And faux show, follow me on Instagram, wisehorsewoman.com. And please consider during Giving Tuesday, and you can take all the time you need, but sometime during December, go to the website, horseandheart.org, and make a donation, because we are holding space and putting a stake in the ground for women of color to come to Horse and Heart for a luscious, deep dive equine experience. And we really are looking forward to treating these ladies like queens. So thank you for any support you can give to us. We want to share this kind of work and this land and these partners and this way with these particular women at this time. So thank you for whatever you can offer. We are very grateful. Thank you in advance.
And Sarah, before we close, we got about 20 seconds left. If somebody heard you and thought, wow, there's a healing resonance for me, and they would like to work with you, how could they find you?
Thank you. Yes, I have a healing arts practice called Postures of Grace, Postures with an S of Grace. My website's posturesofgrace.com. And you can find me on Facebook, Sarah Cruse. My band is Yaya's Music Kitchen on Instagram. And I just, totally open to connect and having an adventurous healing journey with anyone that is up for it.
Well, ladies, thank you so much for joining us tonight and sharing your powerful work with our listeners. I look forward to hearing about Dark Horse Rising and having you back to talk about that experience.
Love you both. Thank you so much.
Love you.
Bless you.
Good night. All right, this has been Talk of the Bay. I'm Christine Barrington. We will have a review from the Film Gang to be followed by Luigi Oppido, our computer man.